Morning, we bring you the latest in the world of sports. I'm Paulo Del Rosario.
And we bring you the conversations you want to hear from your favorite icons and athletes. I'm Bea Diaz-Fabros. In tonight's Game Plan, we'll talk about the most impactful player signings as we look ahead to the resumption of the PBA Governors Cup.
And we'll break down the moves approaching the NBA trade deadline and the very exciting Eastern Conference playoff race. Buckle up, sports fans. Let's get in the game. Ladies and gentlemen, we are 1 day away from the return of the PBA Governors Cup, and fans are set to see a couple of big names on new teams, as well as new faces debuting on the PBA court. Now, joining us tonight to break down the most impactful signings in the PBA during the break is PBA Rush analyst Diego Dario. Jegs, I'm just so happy you're here at the moment.
Hi, Jegs.
Thanks for having
we
me,
were talking off the air, and I'm so excited for the season.
And I'm not wearing a suit, too.
I know, I'm not used to it.
Yeah,
actually.
same. Okay, so many things to discuss here. Bea actually has a list for us to go through that we kind of discussed off the air. But Bea, where do we start?
All right, so Jags, let's first start with the trade of Chris Banchero to Meralco. Now, we all know that they need him, especially with the departure of John Pinto to Ginebra. He has to fill in that point guard role. But he's been playing really well in the first 5 games with the Phoenix Fuel Masters. Do you think that he can replicate this game or even do much better with the Meralco team?
Well, I think Chris has the talent to do that. You know, he led his old team in scoring, and he's a great defender, which Meralco takes pride on. And I think, he's a smart player enough to adjust to the system of Meralco right away. And let's see how he does. But there were reports that he wasn't going to play. He won't play in the first game of Meralco starting tomorrow.
Of course, Chris Banchero, when you look at his numbers and you know what he's done throughout his career, you know that you're going to get a facilitator, a guy who can also turn up in scoring. And when you say that he's coming in to fill in the spot of John Pinto, I think that that's actually underrating him in the sense that if you have a Banchero there, you're probably going to have him as a starting guard or probably having a starting backcourt or maybe the first guy off the bench to bring in a punch that you probably don't have. Pero syempre may adjustment period pa yun eh. A mid-season move.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to see how quickly he'll adapt to Coach Norman's systems. I don't know if he's going to replicate 18 points per game. Kasi syempre,
There are a lot of other
there's
players.
so many other pieces there. Meralco's a loaded team, a talented team, and a team that feels that they're a championship contender.
And to add to that, Pao, actually, the way that Meralco runs their offense, they don't really rely on one guy to make plays. They move the ball very well. They run their options. So it's really going to be a matter of, time before Chris Banchero will be able to adjust to that system.
Well, it will be very interesting to see how he will gel in with Coach Norman's black system in Meralco. But let's go to the next one, Jegs. Adrian Wong to Magnolia. We all know that this is a veteran-laden team, and their backcourt is really packed. They have Baroka, they have Paul Lee, they have Gio Halalon. What do you think Adrian Wong can bring to the table to this veteran-laden Magnolia Hotshots team?
Well, I played against Adrian back in the UAAP.
Yeah.
First, he's a great guard. He's a very cerebral guard. I'm sure he can adjust to the system right away, even if it's a new team, because he played with Ateneo, with Coach Tab before, and he's gonna know how to adjust. Also, he's a great defender. He's long enough to pressure all the other guards of the PBA, and also he can knock down the three, which is very important for Magnolia. Calvin Abueva driving, they're hitting Ian Sangalang, but Bea was correct with, the depth of the guards. They have so many guards. That's going to be the question for Adrian Wong.
Ang daming guardia sa Magnolia, and you have to feel that where will the playing time come from? But when you have that level of talent in Magnolia, siguro isipin mo, grabe yung battle for yung positioning, yung internal competition within the group. So right now, para sa akin, the onus is on Adrian Wong to fight for that playing time. We know what he can do. He's shown flashes of it with Rain or Shine. And siguro with the mentorship of a Paul Lee, you can expect an even more cerebral game from him. Maybe possibly better habits, and let's see what he can pick up from that experience working with the likes of Sinopoli and Mark Baroka.
Exactly, and he mentioned that the #1 player that he's actually looking forward to play with is Paul Lee, so he can take him under his wing and learn a lot from this veteran Paul Lee. Now let's go to the Gilas players who will finally be making their debut in the PBA. Let's start off with Isaac Go. He was the #1 draft pick in that special 2019 PBA Gilas draft. He just inked a 2-year deal with Terra Firma. Now, we all know that Isaac Go, he's not the fastest, he's not the strongest power forward out there, but he does use his basketball IQ in that outside shot. Do you think, Jegs, that he can replicate this game of his and bring it to the PBA?
Well, first of all, the Game family wants to congratulate Isaac Go for inking that deal. But yeah, I agree. Isaac Go, I think he will help any team in the PBA, and he will help this Terra Firma team. He can shoot from the outside, and Bea is also correct with he's very cerebral. He can use his basketball IQ. He can make that extra pass. He makes the right decisions. And I think, physically, he can improve more and develop more, especially with pro training.
Can I just say, sobrang excited ako makita si Isaac Go na naka-green. I had never thought I would see Isaac Go wear green. And I think he'll be a better player because of that. But itong si Isaac, syempre, he goes into a situation wherein there's an obvious path to playing time.
Yeah.
He will be a guy that needs to contribute big dito sa Terra Firma because of the lack of size that they have in general. And with a guy like Isaac Go, you have to wonder, how can he adapt to yung pro game considering the closeouts are faster, your opponents are longer. He normally, back in his college days in the UAP, he could shoot over guys, he could bully people, but it's a PBA, it's going to be a different story. And I know that he has experience with Gilas, but I don't think he's had enough games to showcase that he can handle that type of pressure on a consistent basis, and it would be very exciting to see how he would take yung challenge na to in his first few weeks in the PBA.
Yeah, exactly. We're really interested to see how he'll adapt his style of play. But there are a lot of Ateneo players who will be entering the PBA, and aside from Isaac Go, we also have Matt Nieto, who just inked a 3-year deal with NLEX, and with Kiefer Ravena still in Japan, and he will definitely have that backcourt duo with Kevin Alas. And Coach Yang Gai already praised him actually, that he's been really learning the system very fast. Jegs, what are your thoughts about Matt Nieto with NLEX?
Sorry, Jegs, we'll also add in also Mike Nieto, because you can't talk about one without talking about the other as well. So si Mike Nieto naman coming in for rain or shine, and you have to feel that he is going to also fill in the spot that was just vacated there by Adrian Wong. And let's see whether or not he can find playing time there as well. But when you talk about the Nieto brothers, what's the first thing that comes to your mind, Jegs?
Well, I was able to become teammates with him before, back in Batang Gilas in the national youth team.
Yeah.
And these guys are winners. They've won in the grade school level, high school level, college, and now they're going to prove to everyone that they can also win in the pro level. But when you talk about Matt Nieto, I wasn't surprised that he was learning the system very quick. That's the type of player he is. Yeah. He makes the right decisions. He's not going to be the player now, give him the ball and he's going to score. He's going to run the system, make everyone better. And Mike Nieto, he is the epitome of a true leader. Since high school, he was already a born leader. He was already, talking to a lot of the teammates. Even when we were young, he would gather the troops, he would motivate us, and I think he'll do the same in the PBA.
Let's go through the other draftees quickly in terms of the former Gilas boys. So that's Alin Bulanadi for Alaska, who Coach Jeff loves. He raved about him online, and actually it's the first thing I saw when you talk about it. And of course, he Ray Suerte sa Blackwater. He didn't get a lot of run for Gilas, but then he could provide a spark for Blackwater, especially in terms of scoring, Jegs. When you look at these two names, how excited are you in their fits to their franchises?
Well, when you talk about these two guys, all I can say is they're hoopers. Alin Bulanadi, he scored, I think, 40-something in a game in the NCAA. And I think, Alin Bulanadi will do what he does best. He's going to score, and his character was praised by Coach Jeff. And when you talk about Ray Suerte and his position in Blackwater, I think it's the perfect time for him to show out, to try to show his talent to the PBA.
A lot of exciting new names in new places, and Jegs, we're not letting you go yet because we're going to talk a bit more hoops in just a bit. But for the PBA, you can catch some of these names in action tomorrow as Meralco Bolts face the NLEX Road Warriors at 3 p.m. while the Magnolia Hot Shots suit up against the TNT Tropang Giga at 6 p.m. After the break. We'll break down the moves approaching the NBA trade deadline and the very exciting Eastern Conference playoff race. Stay tuned. You are watching The Game.
Welcome back to The Game. As we are always a fan of the NBA, be sure not to miss the action this weekend. On Saturday, former teammates turned All-Stars Karl Anthony Towns and Zach LaVine take on the floor as the Wolves battle the Bulls. Then on Sunday, the Miami Heat look to stay hot against the struggling Brooklyn Nets. As the basketball world is once again taken by storm, the NBA trade deadline, let's talk about the playoff implications of these trades in the Eastern Conference. Now, we still have Jeg Godario, the NBA All-Star analyst, with us. Now, Jegs, there have been a lot of trades that have made waves as we approach the NBA trade deadline. But one of the biggest ones in the Eastern Conference is really Carius Lavert moving to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, number one is that finally he's coming home to Ohio.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But, secondly, this adds another offensive threat to the Cavaliers. How dangerous is the Cavaliers now as they are smacked at number 4 in the Eastern Conference?
Just to bring that up, so for those wondering, the trade was Carius Lavert and a 2022 second-round pick for Ricky Rubio and a lottery-protected 2022 first-round pick. So really, it's just loading up after losing Rubio, and you get a Carius Lavert. You have to feel that you're Cleveland. You're feeling good, Jag.
Well, it's basically a trade that, Cleveland really wanted to. I mean, Ricky Rubio was injured, and they add this scoring machine in Carius Lavert. He's the wing that's been missing for this Cavs team. Although, the Cavs are doing well even without him. They have Darius Garland running the point. They have Mobley and Jarrett Allen as their front court. And add Carius Lavert to it, I think they're going to be a tough team to beat, especially leading into the playoffs. But I think the experience will be the X factor for them in the playoffs.
So right now, at the moment, they are tied with the Bulls in the third spot. Third and fourth. Bulls are third, technically. 34-21 is their record so far. And Cleveland are fun. And seeing them succeed is without post LeBron and having it all come together. For me, it's one of the most pleasant surprises in the league so far.
Exactly. And aside, from Carius Lavert, we have another big trade. And I know you're very much affected by this one, Jack, since it's your favorite team, the Portland Trailblazers. We have CJ McCollum being traded to the Pelicans. Now, this is an end to one of the most exciting backcourt duos that we have in the NBA. I personally loved watching him with Damian Lillard. What are your thoughts about that, Jags?
Okay, I started becoming a Portland fan because of these two guys. All right, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. I love their brotherhood. I love the way they give it to each other. When CJ is hot, Dame will give way. when Dame is hot, CJ will give way. But I think, if you're a Portland fan, it had to happen. It had to happen eventually. It wasn't working. They have a new coaching staff. And I think this trade really opened up things for the Portland Trailblazers in the offseason to make some moves to add that one more guy that Damian Lillard needs in order to win.
Yeah, so this move is actually a precursor because let's be completely frank, Jegs. This is a rebuilding team.
Yes.
They're trying to create space. They know they're not going to win this time around. In fact, one of the young guys that they got, Nickel Alexander-Walker, was moved also for an expiring contract in Joe Ingles, and Joe Ingles is not going to play. So they just accepted the contract. So come next season, they have space to sign a bigger free agent. How are you feeling with all of this happening? If you're a Portland fan, what goes through your mind?
Well, right now, I'm sad because that happened and they're losing. They're not, playing well. But in the future...
No, and what happened today?
What do you mean?
Because the Trailblazers got one over the Lakers today.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And they won, right?
I think they're 10th. Why do you have to say that,
I think they're 10th or 11th, right? Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's going to help their case this season, right?
No, it's not.
But, I'm excited for the future, what they're going to do. They need that extra piece to surround Dame Lillard.
Yeah. Of course, Damian Lillard, he's still the guy to build around. Yeah. I think all the tools are there to get someone. So the question is, what can the front office execute come next season, Bay?
Exactly. I know we're very excited for this rebuilding Portland Trailblazers, but the NBA trade deadline is coming up very soon. Actually, it ends tomorrow 4 a.m. Manila time already. But that's still a lot of time, and there's one trade that I'm really waiting to happen.
What is this?
It's the Ben Simmons and James Harden trade.
Yeah.
Dregs, what are your thoughts? Do you think that it would actually actualize?
I've been seeing a lot of reports about this, and this is a good one to talk about. I heard that, James Harden really wants this trade to happen. There were reports, but Steve Nash says otherwise. So let's see if, there are going to be Woj bombs while we're sleeping tonight before the day.
Oh, you're sleeping. So you're sleeping.
Yeah,
I don't think I'll be sleeping.
I will be up.
It's crazy considering all of the moves potentially there. Of course, when you talk about Ben Simmons and James Harden, this could be a big power shift, especially in the Eastern Conference. And I think that's a great segue to the fact that it's a tight race up in the Eastern Conference when you look at the top 4 teams right now being separated by only a few games. And it feels like it's a jumble. Right now, the number 1 team are the Heat with 35-20, the Bucks at 35-21. Then it's the Bulls and Cavs tied up. And then you have the Sixers who are just rolling with Embiid. Now, when you look at the standings right here, Jegs, what is most shocking to you? I think it might be the Nets at this point in time.
I was supposed to say that.
But what do you think? Do you think that this is probably how it's going to end once the playoffs start?
I don't think so. I mean, this is how close the East is. The Brooklyn Nets just lost a couple of games from number 2, number 3. They went down to number 8.
They went on a big losing streak,
right?
To be completely frank.
Yeah,
but yes, you're right.
An 8-9 game losing streak, and that's not helping their case right now. But I think, in the East, the Miami Heat are the dark horses for this one. Yep. They've been playing very well. Jimmy Butler has been leading this team, and they have a lot of really dogs that want to prove themselves in this league.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, Jegs. But do you think that they can win it all? I mean, it's one thing to be a dark horse and to maybe place number 1 at the end of the regular season, but do you think that they can be the Eastern Conference Finals?
Well, winning a championship, it requires luck. It's
Yeah.
not
Really?
all skill. I think
Really?
it requires
I
luck.
bet to
No.
disagree.
So
I think luck matters too, but go ahead.
Imagine if Miami faces Brooklyn Nets in the playoffs with an injured KD, or let's say Kyrie not playing the full, the full series.
Yeah.
That's gonna help them. That's luck for me.
Well, yeah,
but
if
they're
you
gonna face
mentioned Brooklyn Nets, that's right.
all 3 Hall of Famers, that's gonna be tough for the Miami Heat, right? They're number 8. Talking about the Brooklyn Nets, number 1 is the Miami Heat. But I think the Milwaukee Bucks will be a tough matchup for this Miami Heat team.
Yeah, I think the Bucks, when they are healthy and when they are on, they're probably still the team.
They're crazy.
People forget that this is that the Bucks teams.
I know, they don't get
are
enough
good.
recognition, guys.
They're
Why?
the champions. I mean, they've done it.
Yeah.
So, and it's not like they had a big turnover from last year. And there is still a big chance that they could still go all the way. the stability is also there in comparison to the Brooklyns. But then the Chicago fans out there will all be like, hey, wait till we get right too. So really, for me, it's a question of who gets healthy first,
Yes,
who
I agree.
gets lucky with the matchups, because the matchups matter. I wouldn't be surprised in the last few days that they're going to say, oh, I want to match up with this team, so I might take an L here. But, those are the things that you have to consider, Jed.
Yep, I agree with you. And when you talk about this Milwaukee Bucks team, Giannis is shooting threes now.
I know.
He's shooting more threes,
Scary.
and he's been shooting very well from the free throw line. So you can't just foul Giannis at the end game because he's going to make you pay.
Well, I remember that debate coming up about Giannis and AD recently, about who's the more better player, who's the more talented player. And I think it's safe to say that right now, we're looking at Giannis, he's still in the race to be arguably the best player at the moment. Especially with the way that he's carrying this Bucks team. But again, let's see whether or not it all turns up in the end of the regular season, because the playoffs, that's where it matters. So let's see what happens then.
Exactly. And aside from this one, who do you think team will really do well here in the Eastern Conference? I mean, after the Bulls, who's your second best team?
We just talked about it earlier. I think it's the Cavs. They're
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think they're number 4 now.
Yeah.
Imagine, let's say they match up with the Milwaukee Bucks. Imagine Mobley and Jarrett Allen trying to stop Giannis. I think matchup-wise, they can match up with the Bucks. But of course, the experience, they're a young team, will be a problem for them when they go up against the defending champions.
Again, also for me, don't forget about the fact that the Hornets have a lot of potential and they're getting better. And they are 9th right now, but they are only a few games away. The Nets are just 1 game away from them in terms of the standings right now.
And they have Miles Bridges. According to Jello, he's the most overrated player.
You know what?
I watched that.
Jello gets
really
into
fun.
fights. Jello gets into fights. But anyway, I don't think we're going to have a lot of fights here because considering how great the race is in the Eastern Conference, there's a lot of debate going which way. So let's see how it all turns out. Jegs, thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thanks, Jegs.
Thank you for not making me hurt you in this
I was
in
waiting
this
for
segment.
that.
No, we're good. Nothing too controversial now. But
Thanks,
anyway,
Pao. Thanks, Bea.
no worries, brother. Don't miss the NBA action this weekend. On Saturday, former teammates turned All-Stars Karl Anthony Towns and Zach LaVine take on the floor as the Wolves battle the Bulls. Then on Sunday, Miami Heat look to stay hot against the Brooklyn Nets. After the break, we'll get the latest from the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. Stay tuned. You're watching The Game. Welcome back. You're watching The Game. I'm Paulo De Rosario. Time to get some updates now from the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. USA's Chloe Kim makes her story as she becomes the first woman to win back-to-back gold in the Olympic halfpipe. Meanwhile, in figure skating, Nathan Chen also becomes the 7th American man to bag gold in the Olympic category as he gets the top spot for Team USA. As of 4 p.m. today, here's how the medal tally looks. Germany now leads the pack with 5 golds, followed by neighboring Austria and Norway with 4 each. USA sits at 5th with the golds courtesy of Kim and Chen. Catch games on One Sports and One Sports Plus. You may also catch every moment by watching on the Beijing Winter Olympics channel via Signal Channel 198 on SD and 298 on HD.
Well, Pa, we're really excited to see Asa Miller this Sunday, our lone representative here in the Philippines for the Winter Olympics. Everyone, thank you for joining us. I'm Bea Daes-Fabros.
Catch us weeknights here on One News, One Sports, and One Sports Plus. I'm Paulo De Rosario, and this has been The Game.